Glass skitters, a boy yelps. Rain needles through the alley and turns the ground to a slick of oil and gutter grit, and I'm already moving before I think. My palm hits a narrow chest. Ribs under my hand. Too thin. Behind me, I tell him, and I step into the swing. The backhand whistles. It cracks my cheekbone, a bright pop against bone, the taste of metal lapping my tongue. I don't stumble. I plant. The boy shivers against my spine. His breath is shallow and fast, hot through my soaked sweater. "Little thief," the man says. Voice like gravel rolled slow. His rubber soles squeak on wet concrete. Somewhere, a bottleneck knocks brick and taps to a stop. A second man laughs, thin and eager, from the alley mouth where engines idle low. I said behind me. I murmur, pushing him back with my forearm, my fingers finding the ridge of his ribs again to place him where my body blocks his line. He listens. Good kid, smart. Fear hums their names to me. Kids who've been bringing their cousins to the community center for weeks, hands stuffed with homework and secret errands. This is Tomas. He shakes like a wet match. Headlights smear white along puddles. The matte black car door thunks open, deep and solid, echoing off brick. It's a quiet sound that somehow cuts through the rain like a shot. He steps out with the kind of stillness that makes the world decide to get out of his way. Nico. The first man's laugh dies in his throat. He doesn't look at me yet. He looks at the knife hand. Fingers, then wrist, then arm. He moves. Twist. Strip. The blade clatters and spins. It's fast and final, as rain hitting a gutter grate. The man makes a wet sound and drops to a knee, clutching a hand that just forgot its job. Nico's eyes cut to mine, dark and assessing. A flare of recognition, I don't understand, stuttering there and gone. A scar crosses the middle knuckle of his right hand, pale and flat like a string pulled through flesh. He nods, once at me, then at the boy. A second engine revs at the alley mouth, hungry and getting closer, bass up, muffler blown. Someone who wants to be loud about it. Tires hiss. The thin, eager laugh turns into a shout. "In!" Nico says. "It's not a bark. It's a decision already accounted for." "Now." I go. My hand hooks Tomas's hood and tugs. He stumbles and scrapes his sneaker inside the car, leaves a dark smear. I latch the seatbelt across his narrow lap with stiff fingers. Nico is already sliding behind the wheel. The thunk of the door is a promise. The first man swears and reaches for whatever he thinks will make him braver. He doesn't get there. The car eats the alley. Wet brick blurs. A bottle cracks under us with a hollow pop. Seat leather sticks to my thighs. The kid's breath whistles, high and ragged. And then I see the shine of red, darker than the rest of the wet, seeping through the hem of his sweatshirt. Left side, lower. Not pulsing. Good, not nothing. "What's your name?" I ask, leaning close. I need the sound of his voice to anchor. "Him here? T. Tomas," he manages, teeth clicking on the T. His hands are clenched so hard his knuckles look like pebbles. "I'm Mara," I say, because names keep people from becoming problems, and problems get solved too cold. "Press here." I take his palm, place it over the wet heat at his ribs, and layer my hand on top. I feel the small rise and fall. I match my breath to it. I count. 4 in. 4 out. My fingers find the dish towel I shoved in my bag after closing the center. It still smells faintly of lavender cleaner and fried onions. It's ugly orange with a stitched chicken in the corner the kids think is hilarious. I fold it tight and jam it under his palm, shift my hand, and pull my belt free with a hiss. The buckle knocks my knuckles, and I ignore it. The belt loops around his middle, leather slick with rain and sweat. I tighten until he gasps. He doesn't pull away. "You're okay," I tell him. I don't wait for permission to make it true. The towel blooms red. It holds. Nico's knuckles are a pale arc on the wheel. Tendons rope. Rain drums the roof with a hard, steady beat that fills the car until it's a pulse we all can use. We take the corners fast. The tires bite. His jaw is clenched, the hinge ticking. He doesn't ask questions. He doesn't waste breath saying it's fine. At the intersection, a siren rises 3 blocks away, then drops. I file the distance. I count the intervals out of habit. Siren timing tells you the shape of the neighborhood. It tells you if help is a promise or a rumor. Seat down. He doesn't look back. He reaches with one hand and finds the lever without looking, palm flat. The seat groans and tilts. Tomas settles and the pressure holds. I keep my hand on him and count. "What did you take?" I ask, low, near Tomas's ear. The kid flinches, a new fear shifting under the old. He risks a glance toward the driver's profile and then at me. "I didn't," he starts. "Don't lie to me." I say, calm, because the truth is the only thing that pays out when we're this far in. "We'll figure it out." His throat works. He swallows air. "A book," he whispers. "A notebook. From Rocco." The name drops like a nail in a glass of water. Nico's grip doesn't change. The car doesn't slow. But something in the air tightens. "Where is it?" I ask. Tomas tips his chin toward his chest, eyes wide, lashes clumped with rain. I rub a thumb across the smear of dirt on his cheek without thinking, and then regret the tenderness immediately. It makes promises I'm not sure I can keep. He nods at the backpack under his feet. We don't touch it now. The alley gives way to a wide street where puddles make mirrors out of the whole city. Neon flickers the color of bruised fruit. We slip past a bodega with a metal gate half down and a man smoking under an awning, ignoring everything on purpose. A church bell tolls a single time, late and lonely. "Hold on," Nico says, and then we're shooting the yellow. Brake lights fan out in front of us and close again behind. No one honks. That tells you something too. My cheek throbs in time with the wipers. The kid shudders. He watches Nico in the rear view like you watch the ocean when you're standing exactly too close, like it might feed you or drown you and there's no sign which. We slide into a narrow street with sycamores listing over it, bark shedding like paper in long strips. The car glides to the curb in front of a brick face, softened by ivy and age, cement steps painted with flaking green. Not where you bring strangers. I clock that. The judgment lands and sits. He's making a choice and paying for it when he does. The garage door shivers up on a motor with a weary whine. It smells inside like oil and leather and a faint, clean citrus. He kills the engine, and the sudden quiet is so big, I can hear Tomas swallow again. Nico is out before the door stops moving. He opens the rear door on my side. Rain needles his collar. The scar on his knuckle catches the weak overhead light, a white comma. He bends in, his shoulder almost touching mine. Heat rolls off him, the expensive wool of his coat soaked to a darker black. "I carry him," he says. "I've got him," I answer, because I don't like men calling plays over bodies I am keeping alive. Our eyes hold. His come down first, taken the belt cinched, the towel packed, the way the boy breathes. He nods once. Permission passes both ways. "Okay," he says, and his voice settles something feral in me that's been pacing since the alley. I slide my arms under Tomas's shoulders. He bites his lip when the towel shifts, and a thin sound slips out like a kettle not yet boiling. Almost there. I lie. The air inside the garage is warm enough to fog against my skin. Nico opens the door into the house with a key shaped like a skeleton, old-fashioned teeth shaved smooth by years of use. The lock turns with a heavy clunk, 3 times. He's built a ritual against the world. I understand that. We cross a small hallway that smells like old wood and something sweet and milky. The floorboards speak under our feet. The first room is a kitchen, and my eyes find the details without permission, even as I lower the boy onto a long bench beneath a window. 3 crayon drawings magneted to the fridge door. A lopsided house with 5 stick figures, and a dog with too many legs. A red boat in crooked blue waves. A green dinosaur with a smile drawn too hard, breaking the paper. The magnets are bottle caps, flattened and lacquered, one with a dancing fish. The table is scarred oak, knife marks worn to the color of honey. A bowl sits in the middle, with 4 bananas gone freckled, sweet in the air. There's a mug by the sink, chipped handle, a lipstick smear the color of old roses. Nico moves through the space like he's already mapped it 20 different ways. He pulls a first aid tin from a cabinet with one finger, sets it on the table with a soft metal sound. He pulls a kettle to the stove and lights a burner with a twist, the gas catching with a hollow whoomp. He's got a towel in his hand without me seeing where it came from. He catches my eye and lifts his chin toward the bathroom. "We clean it now," he says. He doesn't ask. He just fits into the pace I've already set, as if he heard the count I've been keeping. I loosen the belt notch by notch like I'm stealing a secret back from someone mean. The towel peels and the blood has slowed to an ooze, edges already tacky. Left side, 2 inches below his ribs, a slice you could have drawn with a ruler. Knife. The depth is shallow. He'll live. It still makes my stomach drop and then locks somewhere below my navel. "Good news, Tomas," I murmur, letting my breath run out on his name. "You get to complain about this for days." He huffs a laugh that turns into a wince. "My tia says I complain too much," he whispers. "Your tia sounds wise," I say. I press gauze. His hand finds mine and holds. His palm is damp and cold, calloused at the base of the fingers like he's been lifting more than he should. The kettle starts to squeal. Nico kills the flame a heartbeat before it screams. Control is muscle in him. "What does he want for it?" Nico asks finally, low enough the hurt kid might miss it if he's lucky. "Everything," I say, because men like Rocco don't deal in anything else. The name tastes like rust. I clean the skin around the cut with warm water and a washcloth that smells like soap and sunshine. I hate that it smells like something kind. I need this to be work and not a kitchen with bananas and a dinosaur. I tape gauze in careful squares and rebuckle the belt looser, to hold and remind but not choke. Tomas sags, the first edge off the panic. He looks up at Nico like he's trying to read a language he's never seen. Letters he wants to trust, because they look like home and trouble both. Nico doesn't soften. He simply puts his hand over Tomas's shoulder, and the boy steadies the way you steady a table by putting weight where the wobble is. "You hungry?" I ask, because in my world, warm food is the first door to any negotiation worth winning. He nods, and the nod takes everything he's got. I slice a banana into a chipped bowl with a paring knife that has a nick near the tip, and it lands soft with a wet sound. I shake sugar over it, the cheap kind that clicks against ceramic. Nico watches me feed the kid, and then he looks at the backpack. It's dark nylon, a logo half picked off, one strap sewn with mismatched red thread. He doesn't touch it. He's patient the way predators are patient, not because they have to be, but because it yields better results. "Why?" he asks Tomas, still not looking directly at him. It's a question that weighs what it will cost to hear it when the answer lands. Tomas stares at the banana curve, shining in the kitchen light glow like a small moon. He speaks without lifting his head. "He took the rent," he whispers. "From everybody." "He said the center got to pay too," my tia cried. His fingers squeeze plastic fork tines white. "I thought if he didn't have his book, he couldn't do the numbers." Ah, the ledger, a child's solution, pure and exact. Take the teeth out of the mouth that bites you. I look at the backpack again and feel heat behind my eyes that I push down, because now is not for that. "He'll want it back," I say. "He'll want you," Nico says, just as quiet. He means the kid. He also means anyone who helped. He means the center where I work late and count out flyers with kids. Names written along the edges so they don't get lost on the way home. The house hums. The radiator ticks. Rain hits the window and runs. Something tiny skitters down the glass like a bead of mercury. A burner phone on the counter buzzes. A mean little insect noise, startling only because we were pretending for 3 breaths that we were somewhere else. The screen lights green and the kitchen's warm. Unknown ID, just numbers. The sort of call that always burns you a little, no matter how careful you are with oven mitts. Nico doesn't move to take it. He waits until I look at it and back at him and nod once. He answers. "Viscari." Rocco's voice fills the space like smoke, thick and sweet rot, the kind that clings to your hair and makes you sick hours later. "You got my boy in my book, Nicky?" He always makes flowers out of names to see if you'll flinch when he hands them to you with thorns. Nico doesn't give him anything. "What do you want?" "I want what's mine," Rocco says, drawl slipping like a man leaning back in a chair he didn't pay for. In the silence between his words, you can hear other rooms. A TV too loud, a laugh that's not laughing, and I want it by midnight. Or kids bleed, you hear me? He sucks his teeth. "The little one you haul out of my alley? Cute, be a shame." I press my palm flat over Tomas's on the gauze, and he stops breathing for 1 count. Then he breathes again when I do. "Midnight," Rocco repeats, as if he's generous. Ledger returns, and maybe I return what's mine to all you bleeding hearts. Don't make me come spoil your community. The word breaks the way a bone breaks when you assume it's weaker than it is. Nico's throat moves. The scar on his knuckle whitens as his grip on the phone tightens just enough to make it creak. "You're done bleeding kids to make yourself feel like a man." I say before I think I'll speak. The words are clean and bare. I step to the sink and look at my face in the black window and see a woman with a new mark and old tired eyes. I look away. "We pick where? We pick how?" Rocco laughs, a sound like someone flipping through dollar bills wet with beer. "She's mouthy," he says, sing-song. "I like mouthy. Midnight, the bathhouse, we'll wash up." The line dies with a click that sounds too final. The kitchen goes quiet except for rain and the tick of cooling metal. Tomas leans into my side like an apology he shouldn't have to make. Nico sets the phone down very gently. He doesn't look at me for a heartbeat that stretches long enough to examine and reject all the ways this dies. Then he does. His eyes are steady and unreadable at the surface. Below that, something reads me back. "Midnight," he says. "We have time. We don't have enough." That truth sits between the bananas and the bottle cap magnets and the gauze and the belt like a 4th chair at the table. I pull the backpack toward me and slide the zipper with my thumb. The teeth part, quiet as breath. Inside, a lined ledger cracks open where it rests, damp at the corners. The cover stamped with nothing but the weight of hands that have held it and hidden it and carried it like contraband and salvation. Both. Pages rasp when I fan them, paper fibers rasping like a dry tongue over teeth. My thumb catches a ridge where the spine lifts and gives. Glue peels soft under the pad of my finger, tacky, then slick, like sap warmed by a hand. I breathe shallow so I don't fog the numbers. Columns march. Initials, dates, amounts that look like birthdays stabbed with slashes. The paper wears dirt in the corners and something like machine oil near the top edge, where thumb after thumb left its mark. "Careful," Nico says. "Not because I'm clumsy, but because we both know this thing holds more than debt." "Always," I answer and slide a nail under the lifted seam. The ledger flexes. My skin drags over a lump not made by paper. There's a click under my nail, minuscule, like a grain of sand crushed between molars. There you are. I turn a page and lift the inner cloth with a steady pull. A disc smaller than a dime winks, matte gray, wired thin, glued flat. "Track," I murmur. The word tastes bitter. I pinch and peel. Adhesive strings between flesh and device and then snaps. The thing is light as a lie when it wants to be a joke. Heat from my fingers bleeds into it. I set it on the stove's cold metal, where a burner would burn it if I asked. Then I pick up a magnet from the fridge, the dancing fish, and click it down. It hums the suggestion of a trapped fly against steel. Tomas watches me, with wide eyes from the bench. His breath hitches when I lift the cover, the belt at his waist creaking leather against cotton. He relaxes when the magnet thunks. His shoulders unclench a notch. He thinks magic and science are the same thing when they make him safer. "We sleep in shifts," Nico says, voice a low engine. It's not a question. He's dividing the dark into places people can rest and places people can watch. "Take first," I say. He will, either way. I can read that in the way his head tilts, like he's listening for noises only he learned to trust. The house settles during the hours we take in mouthfuls. Pipes ping and cool. Rain softens to steam hiss against the window, then stops. Somewhere upstairs, something tiny clicks. A nightlight or a baby's toy. I keep my ear on the hum of the magnet holding a predator's tooth to a burner, and my palm flat over a child's ribs. Spoons clink like soft bells. Ceramic kisses tile with a tiny chalk as a bowl lands on a counter that has seen knives and homework both. Morning breathes in through the kitchen window in a flush of damp city. Bread, bus exhaust, last night's fried onions still a ghost in the air. I stretch my bad shoulder and it answers with a quiet complaint along scar tissue I learned to stop witnessing a long time ago. I slide a skillet over heat and feel the handle warm from metal up into my palm. "Don't touch," a little voice whispers. A second little voice echoing it a beat later with more steel. Small socks whisper over tile. Pat, pat, pat. Then a whisper of a laugh that tries to be quiet and fails at the end. "Sit," Nico says, but you can hear the smile he doesn't give away in the way the word lines up with chairs being drawn. The small bodies orbit him as if he's magnetic in their iron filings, aligning without thinking. 1. B, the girl with a cowlick that refuses to decide if it wants to be right or left, thumps a spoon against her bowl like a tiny drum. Sandro makes car sounds under his breath, low and serious, and parks 2 toy trucks by the salt. "Morning," I say, because formalities are a bridge kids cross to see if the river underneath is safe. Bia squints at me. "You have a sticker," she announces, chin lifting toward my cheek where the backhand flared yesterday. "A special one," I say. The egg whites spit and pop, and the smell of butter finds the back of my nose. I flip eggs. The spatula scrapes. The sound is church to me, the kind that says we're here and we're together. My hands find rhythm, the muscle memory of a small kitchen and too many mouths to feed from a life that's a closed room I don't open for light. "You don't have to," Nico starts. "Yeah, I do." I cut in, gently, Because my competence is the one thing you don't get to manage. My fingers brush the edge of the pan and heat kisses the crease between thumb and forefinger. My breath catches and then releases slow. The burn blooms dull, a well-behaved pain. He doesn't argue. He shifts, and the floorboard under him protests, an old house telling the truth. I plate eggs and set them down. There are 3 forks beside 3 placemats drawn on paper with crayons, each one scribbled in a different violence of color. I set a 4th, and the quiet that follows is loud. "You can," he begins and then stops like he walked into a door he didn't see because he never had to before. "I can't have children," I say before I decide if it's fair to give him that. The words come out too even. They leave a taste behind. I can't swallow away. I pour orange juice, and the glug-glug fills the space I should take back. "It's not a thing that changes," I add, because some men think time is a knife they can cut facts with. A beat. 2. The kettle clicks when it finishes boiling because I forgot to ask it not to. He steps around me to turn it off, and his shoulder brushes mine, steady and deliberate, a touch that doesn't ask for anything beyond contact. "Good," he says, quiet enough the kids don't look up. "I've got enough kids for both." He doesn't say it like a line, he says it like a floor he's offering to hold us all. He reaches up to a shelf and pulls down a glass jar of oats. Then, with his other hand, opens a drawer. 3 toothbrushes lie there, mismatched heights, the small one's bristles, splayed by the way little mouths chew when they concentrate. He puts them on the counter like talismans. There's a soft trouble sound from the monitor tucked near the fridge, a little electronic sigh, and then a small cry, thin and startled. Leo. The name drops in my chest and settles. He exists now in the room even before Nico disappears, and reappears with him nestled into the crook of one arm, baby breath fluttering like moth wings against the black fabric of his shirt. The baby's hand gropes and finds the chain at Nico's throat and clamps with the insistence of someone whose only job is to hold on and demand the world remain. "My brother didn't go soft," Nico says, eyes somewhere I don't know, voice a notch down. "He went under." 2 sentences, and then he hands me the oat scoop, because he knows better than to ask for a story he's not ready to pay for. His late brother fills the kitchen like a ghost made of obligation and love. The cost in Nico's face is a receipt he won't show me yet, but which buys this particular morning. Eat. Bia orders. She is 5 going on forever. I sit because being bossed by a child is sometimes the safest I feel in a room full of men. After we've scraped plates and rinsed them under water that stutters before it runs, I take the ledger to the table. The boys, boy and baby, drift toward the living room rug where an old stadium blanket lives with crumbs and forgiveness. B draws a dinosaur with a new smile. I find the page with bank routing numbers and note the pattern. Repeating transits tied to the same clearinghouse, dates staggered on Fridays and Mondays, padding withdrawals in small-town banks you can bully with a look. He uses 1 payroll company. He masks 3 LLCs, with names like Clean Water and Rapid Carpentry. My thumb taps my phone. The screen warms my skin and lights my face like dusk knows my secrets. I breathe and keep my world small. This number, that drop-down, the way back-end access opens if you know which door nobody locks because it's ugly to look at. I don't steal. I pause. I reroute. My finger hovers, then I type a rule. Hold outbound disbursements originating from transit 0312 if flagged against vendor 894, beginning 23:59 Eastern. A shell script whispers across my brain because old work lives in hands even when it doesn't live in titles anymore. I build a delay that will gum up Rocco's pipeline until every man he starves starts asking if maybe it's time to stop letting him cut pieces from them. It will freeze at midnight, I say, throat tight on the word, because it echoes the threat we've been given and I'm making it mean something else. His payroll. His cash. Everyone with a gun paid hourly gets a little text that says, "Payment failed." Nico watches me the way men watch the edge they plan to walk. One hand cups Leo's back, fingers splayed like a map. The scar on his knuckle is pale against the baby's soft powder skin. "You sure you want them looking at you when that hits?" he asks. Not because he doubts I can stand it, because he's measuring how to stand with me when it does. "I'm already on their list," I say. The dishwasher hums because Sandro pressed the button with the seriousness of a launch. The weight of that hum settles my bones. We don't get to keep the quiet long. A car rolls past outside with a muffler like thunder stitched with nails. The low rumble vibrates the window glass, a warning. My breath stops between one sip and the next. Tires squeal. A shotgun coughs, that deep hollow boom you feel in the gut before your ears catch up. The window explodes, the crack like a high scream turning to shiver as glass beads rain across tile and wood with a rainstick's hiss. Down, Nico barks, already moving. His palm hits my shoulder, he shoves. I hit the floor hard enough to knock air into my teeth. Leo wails, an alarm bell. Bee shrieks and then crawls, knees scrabbling, her voice cutting small and raw. "Under! Under!" Like we drilled it. Sandra goes flat and slides under the table with the certainty of a kid who knows what to do when grown men act wrong. Nico takes the door frame, body a wedge, then flattens and scans the street through the jagged teeth of the window. The next shot splinters the door jamb and scours a groove across his shoulder. He grunts, low, and drops a fraction, making himself smaller. Paint dust drifts. My hand finds the floor. Glass bites my palm, thin and mean. The cut opens like a mouth saying "oh," and heat spills from it in a bright line. "Count," I tell myself, useless and necessary. One in, one out. Keep it thin. The car fishtails and peels away, tires carving a dirty line on wet asphalt. The echo of it drowns the baby for a breath, and then the baby drowns it back. In the basement, Nico says to the kids, not loud, not calm, just true. Now, crawl. He presses a kitchen towel into my bleeding hand without looking away from the street. His fingers are sure. He raps twice, pulls, ties. The cloth drinks red and goes pink around the edges like shy dawn. "Move," he says, and I move. Pain is information, not an order. We herd the kids down. The stairs creak. The air tastes like old stone and laundry lint. When we surface again, it's with a plan snapped into place like a magazine seating after a slap. "We can't stay," I say. It's not fear, it's math. The magnet hums under its cap, and the disc stuck to the stove mocks us with the places it's already told them we exist. He nods once. He's bleeding through his shirt in a crescent where the graze arcs. The sight of that stain pulls at something base in my chest that wants to bare teeth at the world. "Warehouse," he says. "River, until it's done." We move. He locks the door 3 times, key turning, with that enormous clunk, then slips the skeleton key into his pocket with a small scrape against coin. The street smells like burned rubber, like someone lit fear and let it smolder. We load the kids, car doors catching and closing with a heavy car's quiet. Tomas makes himself small, eyes on his shoes like he did something wrong by living. The warehouse's freight elevator groans to life with a cough like a large animal clearing its throat. The gate rattles down with metal teeth biting metal. Leo hiccups breaths and then lets them out as small hiccup laughs because his body decides the vibration is a lullaby. My hand throbs under its towel. The elevator smells like oil and old rope, rough air that leaves your tongue tasting iron. The numbers above the door don't light. We count floors by the shift in our stomachs and the way the motor deepens. At the top, The gate scrapes up, and we slip into a room that was built to survive being forgotten. Concrete walls. One cot, a rug that used to belong to a nicer life and now belongs to us. A safe room, unpretty and right. I make for the sink in the corner and wash my hand. The water runs cold for a beat, then coughs warm. Blood unwinds in it like thin smoke and disappears. I breathe out. My other hand finds a wipe. I turn toward Nico and lift my chin. "Shirt," I say. He peels it off with a hiss as fabric sticks to blood. The graze is shallow. The skin around it is already weeping clear. He holds still while I dab and tape. His breath sits at a steady 2 count. In and out, trained into obedience years ago, and turned into a religion. I smell salt and something that is Nico, clean under what today demanded. His eyes are level. His mouth longs for nothing. "You ever going to tell me why you know how to do all this?" he asks, not looking away. "Or do I have to invent a past for you that I like better?" "When it saves us," I say. The cloth sticks to my palm and I peel it away gentle. My fingers brush his skin and his body pours heat into them without permission. The room gets very small, the kind of small you can only breathe if you share air. His gaze drops to my mouth, slow, and then lifts back to my eyes. The distance between us tenses and unspools, like you pull a thread, just enough to test if the garment will hold. I lean. He doesn't move. The edges of the building settle with a tick. Leo cries, sharp and new, from the cot where I laid him 2 breaths ago. We break at the same time. The moment doesn't shatter. It folds and waits where we leave it. Night drips in slow in a place like this. The river hisses against the pilings below, like someone simmering anger in a pot they don't stir. The kids nest in a heap that makes me ache, Tomas on the outside, trying to pretend he's not already part of the pile. Sometime after midnight starts to sharpen its teeth on the day, the elevator whines a small sound, and then goes quiet again, though no one called it. By the time my body moves, the note is already under the door. The paper rasps when I slide it up with my nail. The handwriting is a child's dressed in adulthood. Too careful. Letters standing up straight like they were told to. Sorry. I go fix. Ledger for me. Bathhouse. Don't let B cry. Damn it. I breathe, the word landing in my mouth like a penny you bite to see if it's real. The corridor holds still around us. Concrete swallowing sound. I grab for the door and Nico is already there, hand up, palm pressing me back. Not to stop me, but to gather me. He thinks he pays your price, he says. His voice is very quiet. His jaw has a mark now where he clenched in the kitchen when the window went. His face is a ledger with new lines I cannot balance alone. This is on me, I say, and the shape of it in my mouth is ugly. I should have. No, he says, the word a hand over a frantic animal's eyes. He looks down at the note and then up at me. He's choosing between 2 kinds of violence, the kind he does to stop a worse one, and the kind he does to himself if he doesn't make this as clean as it can be. He takes out the burner and it buzzes before he dials. Insect noise snicked open by a predator. Rocco's voice oozes into the room like humidity you can't wipe off. Midnight at the bathhouse. He chirps, almost happy. Bring my book. I'll send your strays back with all their fingers if you don't bore me. I close my eyes for one breath, because there's a version of this where I don't keep my hands steady, and that version ends badly. When I open them, Nico is watching me like he wants to chain me to the floor and knows it will make us both worse. You're not going, he says. I ran the numbers, I say. I can run a room. The laugh that slips out of me has no humor and all teeth. You're not the only one who grew up making space safe by standing inside it. I'm not losing you in a bathhouse because some kid with a pistol and a paycheck didn't get his money. He snaps. The first sharp we've had between us. It sticks into me and draws a thin line of something, not blood. "You're not?" I answer. I step in so we're chest to chest, breath to breath, heat to heat. My cut hand throbs in time with my heart. Because you'll be there. Because I hit send, and they'll blink and break, and you'll take the knives out of the ones who aren't old enough to know they can put them down. I don't let children pay my debts, Nico. My voice goes small on his name in a way that's too honest. I let it stand. Silence sits for a single sentence worth of time. "Fine," he says, the word fighting out of him like a confession. His hand comes up and doesn't touch my face. He curls his fingers in the air and then drops them. "You run the numbers. I run the room." He looks past me to the sleeping pile in the cot where Lio dreams with his fists in near fight and near prayer. We bring him home. He means all of them. He means me. He means himself too in a way no one has ever said out loud to him. We start to plan. The map unrolls in my head with the cold, clean logic of a checkmate we can make feel like mercy if we're careful. The ledger waits open on the table, its empty spaces promising there's still time to write an ending that doesn't bleed more than we can afford. The river hisses and the ledger's paper rasps under my palm as I close it and slide it into my bag. Nico's hand finds my wrist and squeezes once, a check, not a stop. The room tastes like metal and a new promise. His knife disappears up his sleeve with a soft whisper against skin. Boots thud in the hall outside the warehouse safe room, slow and sure. His two lookouts lean in and don't quite look at me. The older one smells like motor oil and peppermint. "We're posted," he says, voice pitched to bounce down the concrete without traveling too far. Nico nods, and that's the end of it. The elevator groans awake and the gate rattles down. My ribs hum with the ride. I press a palm to the floor when we hit, steady myself, then touch my pocket where the phone sleeps warm and waiting. Midnight is a knife edge. I'm about to push us over it and call that rescue. Rain whispers on the bathhouse's cracked skylights in a steady tap that turns the air into breath you can see. The tiles sweat. Water plinks from a bent pipe somewhere in the dark and echoes off old marble like a metronome with bad intent. I feel the slick on the floor through the thin soles of my shoes. "Tomas," I call, low, because names are ladders out of pits. A muffled sound answers, rope on tile, then a quick inhale swallowed too fast. He's here. The sound lodges under my breastbone, and I breathe through it. Nico moves at my shoulder. Heat radiates from him, contained like a good stove. His eyes cut lines through the steam. His hand brushes my back once, a grounding, then falls away. "Two outside," he murmurs. "If it spills, they bottleneck the door and don't escalate unless I do." "You won't," I say, and the certainty tastes like metal and orange peel. I swallow anyway. Rocco appears like mildew out of the wet, coat dark, smile wet, with appetites he calls charm. His footsteps slap against tile in juicy little smacks. Two kids bracket him, jittery, guns held the way boys hold anger they've been told is manhood. Too tight, mouths slit to hide teeth. Between them, Tomas, hands bound. Cheeks streaked with clean rivers where tears cut through dirt. "Nicky," Rocco sings, and the name slithers. "You brought the mouthy one. And my book." He swings his gaze to me and licks his lower lip. "Sweet. Let's educate each other." "Trade at once," I say, before the cheap theater builds. "Ledger for Tomas. No speeches. No extra hands. Clean." He chuckles. The sound slips like coins fallen between cushions you'll never fish out again. "You hear that?" he asks the boys, open-handed. "She thinks business is clean." "Never lived where I live, sweetheart." The neighborhood rots under his protection. Smell it. He tilts his head toward Nico like a dog showing where he peed. Nico doesn't blink. His knife sleeps, where only he and I know it is. From outside, a gull cries over the river, mean and lonely. The clock in my head ticks on the 1. I take 1 step forward. My soles slide a fraction on the slick. My bag strap digs into my shoulder. I take out the ledger and make sure the boys see the worn cover, the weight, the way it sits like a law when I hold it. I keep my voice clear. We trade, then you go count your blessing that I learned to do math honest. He grins wider, and I count your fingers if you try cute. He jerks his chin, and one of the boys squeezes Tomas's shoulder hard enough to make the kid hiss. That's when I let out my breath and press send. Phones vibrate in pockets around the room like a swarm waking. 1, 2, 4. I count on instinct. Screens blink blue-white through steam. Payment failed. Disbursement blocked. Try again later. The words paint their faces ghost town pale. Hey! One kid says, voice flipping high. His thumb scrabbles at his lock screen and slips. Tap! Tap! It's not. His other hand loosens on his gun, reflex toward the small machine that decides his dinner. It's all the window Nico needs. Nico moves, body low, knife out. He seizes the nearest wrist, turns it palm up, steel to tile with a clatter that rings like a bell in bad church. He shoves the boy behind a cracked column instead of breaking bones that would sing every night for the next 60 years. The boy breathes, and the sound is surprise. Rocco goes red. You think you can starve me in my own city. He yanks and produces a knife of his own, cheap steel flashing a sick light under wet glass. He lunges with all the joy of a bully who finally gets to touch what he's been watching. The gunshot pops. It's a small barking sound in the big echo room. Nico curses and drops to a knee as the bullet kisses his ribs on the right, a shallow line of fire that seesaws his breath. Blood beads and runs, diluted thin by the damp, like wine spilled in bathwater. My body is at his side before my mind writes the order. Count. I whisper into his ear, my palm flat to the heat under his shirt, the old scar tissue lifting like a raised map that reads, survive. 2 in, 2 out. He obeys, stubborn and immediate. It's not surrender, it's a deal. Rocco slices forward, blade angled toward Tomas's little heart, like he'll make a lesson there. I pivot fast and swing my keyring, heavy with skeleton metal and center keys, into the inside of his wrist. The impact cracks along my bones, a chalkboard snap that curls my lip. He yelps, not a performance now, and drops the knife he thought would make him a king. It clinks and skitters. Tomas bolts like a rabbit that finally notices the bush was only pretending to be a bush. He runs crooked and sure toward the nearest hole in this net. The other kid with the gun flinches, finger tightening for a story he'll wish he didn't tell himself later. Nico is up in that sliver, pain making his face an animal and his will making it a man again. He slaps the barrel aside, and the shot punches a hole in a mosaic mermaid's tile eye. He's got the boy's shirt in a fist a breath later, and he doesn't slam him. He takes the momentum and throws him behind another pillar, out of his own bad choices for the length of this fight. Rocco stumbles, trying to pick up his dignity with his knife. Nico meets him in the center of a room that remembers when hot water meant a clean start, and now only offers ghosts. The edge in Nico's hand kisses Rocco's throat in one precise line. Blood doesn't spill. That's the point. It's about the could, not the did. I stand at Rocco's shoulder and see the teen soldiers. Faces, eyes big, lips bitten, phones still blinking failure like a chorus. Look at them, I say, not to Rocco. They are children you rented. My voice goes flat. I'm not letting you buy them again. Rocco grinds his teeth. His voice comes out a snarl that aims at me and has to go through Nico to get there. You don't get to change the rules because you set an alarm. You changed them when you took rent from babies, I say. The words stick in my throat like a fishbone, but I make them come anyway. I pull zip ties from my pocket because I learned a long time ago that certain lines need to be ready ahead of time. Hands. Go to hell, he spits. Nico's scarred knuckle presses a little deeper. A bead of red rises at Rocco's throat, bright as a cherry in dirty snow. Nico doesn't say a word. He doesn't have to. Rocco extends his wrists with a petulance that makes me want to hit him again with the keys. Plastic bites down. The sound when the tie cinches is a quiet ratchet, a tidy little judgment. I take the burner from Nico's pocket with hands that don't shake and hit the camera. Say it, I tell Rocco. Say what you do. You think you're little, he starts, then stops, because the men he pays are breaking in his pocket, and the boys he feeds are watching him with something like hope that he'll be different, and something like certainty that he won't. He swallows. Hate fills his cheeks. I take my cut from every business that breathes on my block, he grinds out. I squeeze the do-gooders too. I make people remember who keeps them safe. Who keeps you rich? I correct. And let him hang himself with his own line. He keeps talking because men like him always do. The words pile, extortion, exact percentages, names. He offers his empire to the mic like a man who thinks the world won't listen because it never did when it counted. I stop the recording. The room goes quiet but for water tapping from that stubborn pipe and the kids' breaths high and hitching. Nico looks at the boy he shoved behind the pillar. The kid flinches at the eye contact and straightens anyway. Nico lowers the knife. Go, he tells them. Drop the guns. Get out. Don't come back. The boy with the chewed cuticle drops his pistol with a clack that says he might shake later when he tells his sister he's not dead. They go. Their feet slap water as they run. The air shifts, lighter by one wrong weight. I look at Rocco, trussed like a package nobody wants. Your accounts are locked, I tell him. Your payroll is gone. Your phones will deliver your confession to every ear that matters. And an ambulance will get here in time to stop you from choking on your own tongue. I thumb 911, speaker on. My voice stays level. There's a man at the old Spring Street baths with a knife. He's bleeding. He confessed to extortion. He's restrained. I drop the phone where the operator can hear him breathing. Her voice floats tinny, calm. Stay on the line. We don't. Tomas is a warm weight when he slams into me. His shoulders tremble under my hands. He stretches up and presses his face into my neck like he's 6, not 12. His breath is hot and salt-sour. I'm sorry, he says into my skin, words wet against me. I wanted to fix it. You did, I say, and I mean it. My hand finds the back of his head and cups it. He is all sharp bones and insistence. And I love him with a kind of ferocity that doesn't need permission. Nico stands close enough that our shoulders touch, his breath skimming my cheek. He cups the back of Tomas's head too, our hands overlapping. His palm is broad and hot, scar ghosting pale under bathhouse gray. Sirens feather the edge of the world, far and getting closer, a highline thread stitching this wound shut slow. He turns his face and finds mine. He tastes like iron and rain and the relief that costs. The kiss is one clean line, not greedy, not safe either. It accepts the price. It pays it. We break on a breath that feels like choosing. Days don't glide after that. They thud. Papers shuffle thick and dry in rooms that smell like wood polish and old grief. Rocco goes where men go when they talk themselves into cages. Accounts seize. The church basement smells like coffee that burned at 6 a.m. and forgiveness. I've set up folding tables and clipboards and receipts that stick to fingertips, just enough to remind you they're real. Ms. Alvarez from the bodega brings empanadas wrapped in paper that sighs when you unfold it. We write a ledger clean and loud, posted on the wall. Anyone can point and ask, "What's that? Who gets this?" And no one gets their name erased. Bia and Sandro thunder over tile like their sneakers grew engines. They drag Tomas into their orbit, and he pretends he doesn't plan it that way, while he peels oranges with the careful fury of a boy undoing his own bad decision. Leo's laugh is a hiccup that ends in a question mark and then becomes a statement. Nico's lawyer, all soft shoes and hard spine, gets guardianship inked with a stamp that thunks the paper a satisfying final sound. Nico changes slow and very quickly. Trucks that used to disappear move in daylight now, stacked with plywood and rebar. His men set up cones around a playground's ragged hole. He stands in rooms between men and tells them nothing that bleeds is acceptable currency anymore, and he looks like a man walking off a ladder without pretending the ground won't punch his knees when he hits. We are tired, we are fine, we are not clean, and we don't pretend else. On a wet dusk evening, swing chains squeak, and kids shriek laugh, with that high dog whistle joy that makes teenagers grin despite themselves. Rain has been here and left coins of light in the gravel. The metal bench is cold through my jeans. I fill in a school form with a pen that scratches. The word mother sits on the page, and my breath catches on it like thread snagging a nail. Nico sits, and the bench shifts. His thigh touches mine, heat through damp denim. His hand is scarred and sure. He presses a key into my palm. It's the old skeleton, teeth smoothed by years, warm from his pocket. "Door's yours," he says, voice low enough that it tucks into me instead of bouncing away. "I told you," he adds when something scared flickers across my face like a fish under green water. "I've got enough kids for both of us." My fingers close around the key and the metal bites just enough to bring me back to my body. The pen feels lighter. I breathe and scribble my name where the form wants it. I don't choke on the word I give them. "I love you," I say, honest like standing in a room full of shots and counting anyway. I'm terrified. The admission sits between us like a small animal that doesn't run when you look at it. "Me too," he says. He doesn't smile. He shows teeth in something like a promise to bite anything that tries to take this away. His hand folds over mine, palm to key to palm, and in that stack is everything I believe about redemption that I never say out loud. A gull screams against the darkening sky. Streetlights blink on and skip their own pale halos across puddles. Tomas pushes Leo in a swing just close enough to scare him, and then far enough to make him giggle from his toes. Bia argues with Sandro about dinosaurs with authority that would get her elected. The air smells like wet earth and laundry detergent and the kind of relief you live with, not past. We walk home. The locks turn with their old heavy song. The door opens. We go in. If Mara and Nico's choice felt like a breath you've been holding finally let go, please like and subscribe for more stories like this. The door hushes shut behind us, and the locks seat with their thick, old click. The house breathes, the way old houses do when they recognize the feet coming in out of weather. Damp cotton whispers as coats slide off shoulders and bump the wall. My palm finds the small dish by the door. The key lands with a soft ceramic clink that sounds like a bell agreeing. I leave it there for one heartbeat. Then I hook it on the nail under the frame where coats sleep. Warm metal on cool steel. Choice on a peg I can touch in the dark if I have to. Socks scuff somewhere. Pipes ping twice like faraway knocks. The last of the rain working out of the bones. Bia's voice rises, knife bright with command. Hot cocoa, she declares, as if negotiating was ever an option. Sandro's truck makes a subtle RRRR under his breath that turns corners for him, whether the hall has them or not. Tomas lags in the doorway, hand on trim, listening to the house decide if it will take him. Shoes, Nico says without looking, and 3 small thumps answer. The rug eats the water like it meant to. The kettle ticks up from cold and then lets out that first thin sigh. I set mugs down, ceramic kissing wood, in little, quiet kisses. Cocoa powder puffs a small ghost when the spoon hits, sweet and bitter at once, the air changing. I wrap my cut hand without thinking. The tape scrapes, the sound of something small and necessary. Finger, Leo demands from Nick's shoulder, grabby hand reaching like the whole world narrows to whatever he can hold. Nico offers his pinky and the baby clamps, the soft grunt that follows landing lower than speech. It lands where decisions do. Chairs scrape. B climbs like a mountain goat onto the chair. I put half a foot from the table because I know the climb is half the point. Sandro drums a pattern on the mug. I know by now means he's trying to be patient and also trying to bend time. Tomas hovers. His breath catches on the first inhale of warm milk. He doesn't step past threshold yet. I slide a mug to the edge of the table and tap the handle with one fingernail, 2 taps. The way we did in the basement when the world slid sharp. He takes 3 steps and sits. He holds the mug with both hands. He breathes in and then drinks careful. The radiator knocks the room into quiet for a beat, and then quiet slides on. He places something on the table without looking at me, and my chest tightens before I know what it is. The note he left at the warehouse, edges soft from pocket and palm, sits between us like an animal that survived. He waits. We don't measure by blood, I say. The sentence is a plank I lay across a place that used to be a drop. His shoulders hitch and then drop. He folds, not collapse. Lean. He leans his temple into my shoulder the way boys do when they want something and don't know they're allowed to ask. I sip and breathe and count for both of us. Upstairs, the floorboard in the hall gives a little complaint under Nico's weight as he heads for the linen closet. He is not stealth when he doesn't need to be. It's a comfort. He returns with a towel for drips, and the soft thwack of it hits the counter. He takes the knife he used to trust before he trusted any of us and runs a cloth along the blade without ceremony. The metal whispers. He walks it to a drawer and sets it there with cutlery, like he decided today that some things belong with ordinary life, or they don't belong at all. The drawer closes with a simple wood-on-wood sound. The night stretches the way it does when you fed it adrenaline earlier and then ask it to behave. Pajamas rustle. Toothbrushes scrape and whir. Bia narrates floss like a play-by-play. Sandro hums the theme to a cartoon he pretends he's too old for. I sit on the floor, by the bunk, and listen to their small breaths even out in the order they always do. B fast to sleep because command costs. Sandro slow because engines cool slow. Tomas last because he guards before he rests. I reach up and smooth the back of his head once. He doesn't flinch. He leans into it, quick and quiet, and then turns his face to the wall and lets go of the day. The monitor by the fridge crackles softly. Lio mutters, then sighs. The sound a tiny saw cutting into the space under my sternum, where lots of things used to live and maybe don't anymore. Nico's footsteps return to the kitchen and then stop. He leans in the doorway. I can hear the minute shift of his weight against the jamb, the small rub of cloth on paint. He doesn't say my name. He doesn't have to. The kettle ticks as it cools, and the house's quiet grows big enough to hold us both without making it a scene. I moved the go bag, he says finally, voice low enough it sinks into floorboards instead of bouncing off walls. He scratches at his jaw, a faint rasp of stubble under a palm that's earned every edge it carries. I kept it under the crib for 2 months. I moved it to the closet. Back of the closet, he lets the quiet offer judgment and then refuses to take it. I keep it, he adds, but it's not the first thing my hand finds if it gets dark fast. I breathe once. The air tastes like cocoa and rain dust. The backstory of those words crouches under them like a dog that took too many kicks before it found a lap. I nod. He is letting me in where the soft costs. I meet him there. I used to keep mine by the door, I answer. My throat tightens just enough to mark the path the words take. Sometimes I slept on it. I left when I shouldn't have stayed, and I stayed when I should have left. I learned to run quiet. I learned to carry what mattered and name nothing by what it couldn't survive. 2 sentences. 3. They don't offer pictures, they offer weight. I swallow, and it hits bottom and sits where decisions live. It's in the bedroom now, I say, back of the closet, next to coats we wear when the weather's only weather. That changes something that won't show on the ledger but will show in the morning when my hand goes to a different place without thinking. He walks to the drawer by the sink and slides it open. A new toothbrush skates inside between the small and the medium. The bristles are stiff and blue. He doesn't make a speech about it. The sound of plastic against wood when he places it is a promise, said as a fact. I pull open a lower cabinet and pick out a bowl from the mismatched stack. It clinks when I set it on the counter. I write our last name on a piece of painter's tape and smooth it around the belly of the bowl with my thumb. The tape purrs under pressure. The fact of the name on the thing makes my pulse do a small, uneven thing and then settle. This is how you move into a life. You stick your name to it where other people can see. Tomorrow, he says, soft, like approaching a shy animal. We take the crew to the wreck. That hole around the swing, it's a lawsuit waiting to happen. He huffs out a small laugh that has more release than humor, and I'd rather it not be us getting sued by Ms. Alvarez. His voice goes lighter by a hair on her name, respect tripping him into warmth in a way his face won't admit. I already told them. Daylight work. No questions about where the money used to come from. They can answer questions about how the concrete sets now. Out loud. Good, I say. I'll take the fun to the church. Miss Porter wants to roster volunteers for the after-school. The bodega posted our numbers on the cooler door. We have 20 receipts to tape and 5 checks to cut. I tap a stack of envelopes with the back of my nail. Paper answers with that dry, small slap that says it's real and also patient. On the fridge, a crayon drawing of a brontosaurus gives a lazy look over its shoulder like it knows we will be here tomorrow to see it again. The hum of the compressor undercuts the kitchen, steady like a bass line holding a fragile song up. He comes close enough that the hem of his t-shirt brushes my forearm. His hand hovers near my elbow a second and then lands, a pressure as much as a touch. You scared earlier, he says. He says it like a fact we both need to mark, so we don't lie by omission. At the form, he adds, which is generous because he could say the bathhouse or the gun or the window, and he picks the paper I bled on with a pen. Me too, he says, again, and different. He lets out a breath that I catch and send back in. The cadence we learned in worse rooms works fine here. That word swallowed me and I let it, I confess, the honest burn like alcohol on a clean cut. I don't have to let it again. My fingers worry the paint chip off the edge of the counter and then stop. I smooth it back down, a useless, tender little lie, and then I stop that too. Door's mine, I repeat, not to hear myself say it, to hear the house accept it. The word mother doesn't choke me tonight. It sits inside me with the other names I've carried, and it doesn't bite. The night moves toward morning. We don't. We stand where we are and let it come meet us. Somewhere outside, a late bus sighs, the brakes letting out that long, exhausted note every city learns to sing. Tires hiss on wet. Someone laughs 3 doors down, a short spill that says their own day is ending where someone's begins. Upstairs, Bea turns in her sleep and makes that little noise kids make when they dream a win. I close my eyes for one long in and one long out. When I open them, Nico is looking at me with that level gaze I thought was threat when I didn't know him yet. It's attention. It's the thing nobody gave me when I was small. I let it land. He reaches past me and lifts my hand by the wrist. He turns it over and looks at the cut like it insulted him. "You'll scar," he says, which in his mouth is neat acceptance. "I know," I answer. "We both do. Scars are the only honest resume I've ever trusted." He kisses my wrist, just once, where the tape ends and skin begins. Heat blooms under that small, old stone of a gesture. I don't move for a second, then I move. Morning answers from the hall with the first thud of feet that forgot to walk because the day arrived, and landing is more important than style. The kettle coughs awake. I stand at the stove and the pan grows warm under my palm, in a path that maps itself from metal to skin. Nico breathes behind me, steady. His voice stays low. "You know," he says, "I used to think the only way to keep a thing safe was to own it. Lock it, hold it, break anyone who looked." He pauses. The pause smells like toast. "It's different. This. It's hold with, not hold down." He clears his throat like he has to make room for the thing that fills it. "I'm learning." He doesn't ask for praise. He sets plates. Tomas wanders in and pretends he was always walking this direction. He slumps onto a chair and stretches his legs and toes like a cat, and grunts in the tone that means good morning, without losing the humorless cool he built for himself out of survival and cartoons. Bea stomps after him and points not at him but at the air above his head, and makes her case for why she should be allowed to bring 3 dinosaurs to school, not 2, because 3 is sacred. Sandro picks a fork, and then picks a different fork, and then asks earnest questions about the difference. Leo smacks his palms on the high chair and raises the room's decibel level like a small, happy alarm. I tuck the school form back into the folder and slide it to the bottom of the stack because it's done. The signature sits there like a stone in a stream, and the water flows around it and continues. We eat. Spoons scrape. Someone laughs and milk spills, and then laughing spills more. The news from the cheap radio on the shelf mumbles about a neighborhood that stopped paying a man who doesn't understand why his voice didn't stop the world this time. We don't pay the radio either. We pay attention to the eggs, the toast, the way Sandro gloms his orange slices into a Frankenstein circle. We clean up. The dishwasher hums its domesticated thrum. The faucet coughs once before it runs smooth. I wipe the counter in slow, long strokes. The cloth, a soft drag under my hand. The smell of lemon fake as sin and fine for our purpose. Nico ties his boots and then unties them because Lio has fed him one sneaker string with the triumph of a magician, and we do the small dance of parents for whom time exists in 5-minute chunks and forever. The front door groans when I open it, and then sighs when it closes, and my key ticks against the other keys on the peg because that's what keys do when they have neighbors. On the way out, the hall mirror catches nothing I want to memorize, so I don't look. Instead, I look at Nico's reflection in the window glass, faint and kind and scarred, holding the baby and the bag with snacks and the weight of a life he chose twice now, on purpose. I look at Tomas ahead of us, his shoulders a little squared, like he's decided to test what being a kid feels like, when nobody is looking to charge him for it. I look at Bea and Sandro flanking each other like a loyal argument, and then I stop looking at all, because I have them in my hands and my breath, and that's enough. Later, hours and receipts and hammers and jokes later, we stand on cracked asphalt that smells like sun-baked city and new concrete. The swing squeaks its rust song when Nico tests the chain. Kids shriek laugh. Ms. Alvarez hands me a cup of coffee with sugar that would make a dentist cry, and I drink it anyway because I owe her and myself something sweet that isn't borrowed. The ledger on the folding table flaps once in a stray wind, and I lay my palm on it, warm skin to warm paper. A man in a work shirt that holds more history than cotton walks up to Nico and nods without deference and without challenge. They speak in short sentences. They shake hands like a deal that says daylight is cheaper than blood. We walk home toward a house that knows the sound of us now. The skeleton key rides my pocket and presses a little bruise into my thigh, and I welcome the ache. The door will open because we say so. That's the only magic I believe in. At the stoop, Tomas asks if he can be the one to unlock it, and I say yes. He turns the key and the locks give their old heavy song, and the kids push and the threshold catches and then yields, and we go in. If you felt the way Mara and Nico set their key on that hook and breathe anyway, please like and subscribe to hear more.